Dementia Researcher with a blogger narrating.
It was late on a Friday afternoon last July, and I was at a farm park with my 2 young children. They were playing in a bus converted into a soft play. Who knew such a thing existed? And I was mindlessly refreshing my inbox on my phone like I'd done far too many times that month, when suddenly the email was there. Amongst the chaos, noise and smells, with my hands shaking, I clicked the PDF attachment, which was a letter confirming that my NIHR funding application had been successful. I felt completely overwhelmed with an enormous sense of relief, pride and a good bit of disbelief. I discovered I was pregnant 3 months into my PhD, so this was a milestone I had been working towards for my 7-year-old's entire existence. It was pretty perfect to be able to share the moment with him when the news arrived, getting covered in his excited kisses and cuddles. I was finally going to be a truly independent researcher. But quickly those feelings were followed by confusion. The award letter came with conditions, and I didn't really understand what that meant. Was the funding secure? Had I misunderstood the decision? Was this a polite way of saying almost rather than yes? Over the next 5 months, there were several rounds of committee feedback to respond to, clarifications to make, and revisions required. Each time, members of the research team wished me good luck with the submission. But good luck with what if the outcome was already positive? What struck me most during the months following the positive outcome letter was how little information there was online about this stage of the process. Like many early career researchers, I had read blogs, papers and presentations about how to write a successful application. And it paid off because along with the favourable outcome, the NIHR had asked if they could use the application in future training as an example of a well-written application. However, much less is said about what happens after a positive funding decision when that decision is conditional. At the time, I was juggling multiple roles, leading research on bereavement in care homes and coordinating collaborations through my role with Enrich Scotland. I was used to complexity, but managing the committee feedback felt different. It was opaque, yet procedural, and hard to interpret without prior experience. During that time, I was worried that asking too many questions would reflect badly on me since I'm meant to be the captain steering the ship. I also worried that not responding quickly or confidently enough might put the award at risk, and I felt like I couldn't really take time off because what happens if an email lingers too long in my inbox? Will the NIHR think I'm not serious enough about a project that still has unanswered questions? The turning point came when I spoke to another primary investigator on an NIHR-funded clinical trial through my Enrich Scotland role. There was a relaxed mention about the 1,000,000 years that had passed since their positive outcome and getting started, partly due to committee queries. I took the opportunity to ask them more, and what I learned was reassuring. They explained that conditional awards, committee feedback and iterative clarification are entirely normal. For many NIHR-funded programmes, a positive funding decision is the start of a structured negotiation process rather than the end of the journey. Committees want projects to be deliverable, proportionate and robust. Their feedback is part of strengthening that, not undermining it. I'm sharing this experience because I suspect many others feel the same initial uncertainty. I think this might be particularly relevant to nurse researchers, allied health professionals, and those coming into research through applied or practice-based routes. The challenge isn't individual capability. Instead, it's that academic culture operates on conventions that aren't intrinsic to many practice-based professions. Feeling uncertain is less a deficit and more a sign that we're navigating a system that often seems like it wasn't designed with our pathways in mind. My work through Enrich Scotland has shown me how important transparency and peer support are. Whether you're a care home staff member taking part in research for the first time, or a researcher leading a national study, the same principle applies to funding journeys. Although my application was ultimately successful, the process challenged my assumptions about what funding success looks like, and reminded me that it is often iterative, negotiated and collaborative. Most of my exposure to successful funding applications comes from funding announcements on social media. They appear to be posted within hours of the outcome letter, polished celebrations that suggest a clean, decisive win. They're not entirely dissimilar to PhD Viva posts, smiling photos, Prosecco with the supervisors and the examiners, always the minor corrections, relief distilled into a single triumphant moment. But these snapshots flatten a much more complicated reality. Behind many of these announcements sits a long trail of revisions, uncertainty, negotiation, and near misses that really make it into the caption. If you receive a positive decision with conditions and you're confused about what feedback means, you're not alone. And if you're an early career researcher wondering whether everyone else understands this better than you, they almost definitely don't. I hope this blog helps to make that hidden part of the process a little more visible and a little less daunting for those coming next.
Thank you for listening. Join the Dementia Research bloggers and share your own views.